Hey everybody, welcome to Madden Science and welcome to our guidelines video. What we're going to do is go through pretty much step by step each part of our class guidelines for this year. It might be helpful if you had yours along with you. First off, on the top, it's got the basic information. My name, Mr. Madden, classroom, the year, email, so some contact info. You notice after the introductory paragraph, the guidelines go in really two different places. We've got a framework that tries to outline the philosophical stance that we're taking, how it is that we're going to approach the class, cover a little bit of our content, but also gets into some of the nuts and bolts and the procedural aspects of class, covering how it is that we do things, what we're doing, and why. It also covers some of our school rules. I'm going to go over both, but I'm going to spend a little more time on the philosophical aspects of the class, kind of how it is that we're learning and why. So this course is designed to teach you about our world, as well as how to learn and how to think like a scientist. The study of physics will be the framework in which we develop and sharpen our analytical and reasoning skills, along with our problem-solving abilities. Creativity and imagination will be fostered and encouraged. Much of the class will follow modeling instruction design, based on guided inquiry and cooperative learning. Kids will be doing science and given freedom to explore and construct their learning. You'll want to note that as you look through the class guidelines, there are a lot of hyperlinks or hot links, so you can click on it on the PDF and go ahead and get to school handbook or our calendar or any other important links. This year in class, we want to focus as much as we can on depth of learning and not just breadth. Our focus in here is going to be not so much on what to know and learn, but how. So how to know, how to learn, and how to see. Emphasis on constructing our own learning as opposed to just instruction. We want to scaffold our learning, so build lesson upon lesson. And who better to look to than the master of scaffolding, Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid.
Look at my eye. Wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Show me wax on, wax off.
Like Daniel-san in the movie, many students will struggle or be confused at different times during the year. What we're trying to do is aim the lessons and activities at students' zone of proximal development. That is, the area where they're going to learn best. And it involves a little bit of challenge. Scientists think maybe that's at about 4% above what we can do on our own. So if this is where you're at each day, we're aiming the lesson at 4% above that. So what it is that you can do, maybe not solo or just on your own, but with my help and the help of your classmates. Lab is going to be an integral part of class, and much of it, like we said, will be inquiry-based, exploration-based, and model-based. So in lab, as in everyday activity, we want to focus on the balance between our methods and the content, having autonomy and yet keeping proper structure. Class is going to have a freedom and kind of figure it out kind of style, much like one of my idols, MacGyver. In order to do this, you must have the freedom to make mistakes.
Strength, mastery, but weakness, folly, failure also. Yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher, failure is.
We want to know and trust the process. Albert Einstein said the formulation of a problem is often more essential than its solution. And Abe Lincoln maybe said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." If we look back to our guidelines and policies, we can see that we have an acronym to start, RESPECT. And the R in RESPECT stands for responsibility, and we can follow along with our guidelines. So number one, responsibility. Students are responsible for themselves and their work. Part of that means there is no late homework, no late unexcused homework. Homework will be assigned nearly every day. We'll go over it before we give it, and certainly after it's completed. Homeworks are going to be focused on a number of different topics or areas. Sometimes it's previewing a topic ahead of time. Often it's reviewing it after we've seen it. And then sometimes it's an enriching or engaging approach to get kids fired up and stoked about what it is that we're learning. Second is effort. And by effort, we mean really love of the game. So you got to have two hearts, right? The love of the game heart, and then the willingness to work hard. Third up is school rules. And for this, we can follow along with our student handbook. Telephones, not allowed in class. So unless we're doing something that involves a telephone or an app, or directly using a computer for simulation, then they're away, not to be seen. Violators of this will get detention. Students are to be prepared each and every day. So that means not only having your proper equipment and materials, homework, but also prepared with the right attitude. Students are also to be curious. As Francis Bacon said, half of science is putting forth the right questions. Now, at times during the year, you're likely to struggle or be challenged. Maybe you got some questions. Certainly, I want you to ask them in class. That's going to be your best approach. But if you don't have time, or you'd rather ask them outside of class, that's fine too. Stop in during flex or community time, during lunch, before and after school, and you can just show up, email me for an appointment, or just stop by. Next is teamwork. You need to be able to work well and confidently and cooperatively with each and every student in class. We also want to make sure that there's teamwork between student and teacher, student and parent and teacher. We'll look to foster proper and good communication and good feedback. I want to make sure that I'm able to give you timely, proper, and careful feedback at all times. And in order to do that well, I also need your feedback. And we'll do our best to follow the principle of subsidiarity. An organizing principle that matters ought to be handled by the smallest, lowest, or least centralized competent authority. So how is it that our days will be organized? When you come in each and every day, you can see on the board there's our arrival, so A for arrival, and then a series of symbols. Our bell ringer, asking questions, news and joke, attendance, what are our targets for the day and goals, going over the homework, and then our check-in. So this is all a part of our procedure and protocol at the start of class. Now, the bell ringers are going to consist of some activity at the start of class that students need to be doing when the bell rings. Here's what a few of those look like. And once we get started, one student will be in charge of delivering and giving us a news and joke for the day. Now, the news should be interesting and topical, has to be science related, and the joke can be whatever. Examples for news can be found from New York Times, or NPR, or Science Daily, or your newspaper. We want you to be able to deliver that without the aid of looking at your phone. And here's an example of some hilarious jokes. These are just visual. The students are going to give out loud or kind of stand-up comedian type jokes. Now, each and every day, our flow will be on the board for the students to see, and it'll also be on our OneDrive Excel file, like you can see here. And what it will do is give our date and what day it is. We'll also tell you each and every activity that we're going to do that day, and then what's for homework. Now, in addition to this, on Schoology, you're going to see our calendar and what's for homework. So Schoology won't have the details and intricacies of each day's activities, but it will have each homework assignment that we have and when it's due. Then once we complete our activity, students will check out and they'll do a self-reflection considering how they did with their technique, effort, attitude, and mental discipline for that particular day. Our next, a little bit of a nuts and bolts as we cover some of our links. First one is for our calendar, which we saw a minute ago, OneDrive Excel. The link is hyperlinked or hot linked on the class guidelines. It's also in the description in the video. You can see that below. It's also found on Schoology. So a number of different areas and ways to access this calendar. We've also got our OneDrive, and you can see that here. This is a view that the students would have, where you could come in and say, all right, here's our student physics 1819. It'll cover general information and then our different chapters and topics. Our Schoology page is shown here. It starts off with some of our beginning of the year links. Our guidelines will be linked on there also. The last link you're going to see on there is a link for the Madden Science YouTube channel. We're going to use this throughout the year. Some of them are videos that I've already done in years past. Others will be videos that we do as the year progresses. Our required materials. Each time we have homework, it is a due. Again, there are no late homeworks, no excuses. You'll need a notebook and a binder, computer charged, scientific calculator, pencils, pens, graph paper, and then if you need a calendar or planner. Our required textbook can be seen here. And on our guidelines, there's a hot link for just that with the ISBN number. This shows you the table of contents and the chapters that we'll be covering this year in class. On the top of page 3, a little more of our nuts and bolts. It goes to our semester grading. Our homework, classwork, labs, and projects are grouped together 40%. Quizzes are worth 20%, and tests are worth 40%. Be sure to read the details involved there about honor code for tests and quizzes, along with science fair for second semester. Below that, you can see student responsibilities, and this is directly out of our student handbook. It covers topics of late work, absences, and makeup work. You can see it's quite lengthy and extensive. I want you to make sure that as you read through this, we'll talk about it in class. I really look forward to working with you. I think this year is going to be fantastic. Please let me know if there's anything I can do, and let me know if there's any questions that you might have. Take care.